Hey everyone, it's Osman with House Einstein, and this is Mind of a Realtor for today, August 8th, 2020. Let's start with market conditions. Here in Boulder, inventory is down for both attached dwellings and detached single-family houses, while sales have gone dramatically upward, in particular for single-family houses. What does it mean when inventory is down and sales volume is rising? Well, it's typically a recipe for rising prices, and you'll see more on that in the newsletter. Check out the newsletter for more. Let's start with market conditions. Here in Boulder County, inventory is down for both detached and attached dwellings. That means single-family houses, townhomes, and condos. Meanwhile, despite the low inventory, we're seeing record sales volume with dramatic increases year over year for detached single-family houses and a townhome and condo market that appears to have more or less stabilized. For more information, check out the latest newsletter. Alright, and now for a quick update with House Einstein's buyers and sellers. We had a couple of closings at the higher end in North Boulder this week, both of which involved bidding wars, both of which we were successful, and both of which we didn't have to go over our buyer's top line or even approach our buyer's top line to acquire the properties. One of them I wrote about in Notable Sales, and that's 603 North. That deal was unique in the amount of time we had to do our due diligence prior to submitting an offer. We also had great communication from the other side, which helped us strengthen our offer at multiple points, even before we had submitted. So, following the Buffett rule, we'll mention who we thought did a fantastic job as a colleague. That's Julie Kovacs. She crushed it with her communication and her professionalism in handling a multi-party bidding scenario and in marketing that property for sale. She was professional throughout the whole transaction, and we deeply appreciated that. And it's not the first deal we've done with her, which may have helped us cinch the deal. Most of the transactions here in the city of Boulder, somewhere around 70%, are done by about 30% of the agents in town. There's a number of agents who only do a couple of deals a year, but those of us who are in the 10% or 5% of the top agents here in Boulder, we do deals with each other over and over and over again. So we have a real good sense of professionalism and personalities, how we handle norms, and whether or not we're going to be able to work through complications that arise in the deal. And almost always there are some complications that arise. And without professionalism and good communication, it's quite common that deals can fall apart. So thank you, Julie, for that fantastic transaction. And in addition to those two closings, we've got a bunch of listings that we are currently managing and following up on showings with buyers agents and marketing them to the greater Boulder real estate community. All of those are going well, and we anticipate getting them under contract and sold soon. And now I'm going to share a little story with you about a negotiation that didn't go so well. I think it's a bit of a teachable moment, so that's the vein in which I'm going to share this story with you. Unlike with the transaction at 603 North, I'm not going to talk about the property address, and I'm certainly not going to mention this realtor by name, but we were in negotiations over inspection issues for the property, and the contract to buy and sell gives the buyer the right to fully inspect the property and object in a notice to correct anything they don't like. Literally anything. And it's a good practice to stick to things that are serious issues. And one of the things we do as buyer's agents is have good conversations with the buyer, our client, about whether these are worth objecting to or not. And we always object to the things they care about after having that conversation, seeking to resolve all or most of the issues they have in a fair way with the seller. And in this particular case, the list was not that extensive. Given the price point, it was a couple of $1,000s worth of items, and for some reason we ended up in negotiations that really got off track. And to bring it back was extremely strange. We were about $600 apart on where we needed to be to get the deal done, and the listing agent claimed to have a backup contract in place at a higher number and told us to pound sand. And this is after getting so close on numbers. And I asked her to send us the backup contract so I could show it to my clients. And she immediately backpedaled and said, no, she couldn't do that. Why would she do that? although it's pretty clear why you would do that. It would be to keep the deal in play and maybe have the buyer rescind their inspection objections. But I suggest that if it's a privacy issue, you could remove anything you want, redact the buyer's names, the agent's names on the other contract. And of course, she backpedaled harder and said she was definitely not going to do that. Now, if an agent ever tries this with you and tells you there's a backup contract, you have the right to ask for it. Certainly nothing wrong with asking for it. And more importantly than asking for it, which is a smart idea, there's nothing in the contract to buy or sell that says the listing agent receiving the contract is supposed to keep it confidential. Now, buyer's agents may have an agreement with their client to keep the name confidential until they submit. The moment they submit the contract in behalf of their client, it's no longer a confidential contract that's being worked on between buyer and their client. It's been shared with the listing agent. And the listing agent has no contractual relationship with the buyer. They haven't signed anything. And there's nothing in the contract itself to buy or sell, that contract, not the buyer agency. There's nothing in the contract to buy or sell with the word confidential in it. I know, I've looked. And it's often in the listing agent and seller's best interest to share it because transparency increases trust. And higher trust usually means smoother closings and higher prices. So it's sort of a no-brainer. But in any event, once it was clear there was a phony backup contract in discussions, I told her this is our number or we'll just walk. There are other houses. And she eventually must have agreed because it was only an hour or so later we got a resolution at an acceptable number. And my client signed it. And that's our role as agents, is to help deals get to closing, to work through inspection issues. And in this particular case, we did, but it didn't have to be that hard. And it still strikes me as somewhat absurd that it was that challenging and involved some shouting. Okay, so are you ready to talk about some fresh listings and notable sales? I'm going to walk you through why I chose these listings, what their pros and cons are. I'm going to do it in a relatively quick fashion because I've got some showings to get to. But if this video stops on you now, it's because you are not signed up for our newsletter. We can only talk about active listings in a private communication with our clients and prospective clients. You have to sign up. There's no obligation to use us if you sign up. Just go to houseeinstein.com, click on newsletter. It takes about 5 minutes to sign up. You'll get the full video where I walk through all of the fresh listings and notable sales for this week, and you'll also have archives to all of our past content. It's highly beneficial to sign up. It's our best work. I wish I could just put it on the blog and share it with everyone, but we have to follow real estate rules and we have to share that information with you privately. So please sign up if you find this content valuable, and I'll see you next time. I'm Osman with House Einstein.